Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here, week 14. Granted, we have one game left till week 14, but we are getting you guys ready for it. I'm Jason. This is Mike. How is it going, Mike?
Going well, it's always a bittersweet time of year. You get a lot less action. At this point, most people, maybe some of your teams is coming down to this last week, but a lot of teams are either locked or eliminated. Maybe there's some seeding and stuff like that. So there's less action. It's always bittersweet. But, if you're making the playoffs or you need that final push, we're here for you. We're here for you throughout the playoffs. So exciting times, but also a little sad because football's coming to an end. We're already in December 1st. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And somehow we are just tattered and bruised because Chargers got to win, but I think it's going to be the last one of the year.
They have a ridiculously hard schedule. So if they can somehow win two more, they can probably make the playoffs, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely not what you're looking for, unfortunately. So, in any case, we will start off like we always do, getting you guys set with waiver wire options. Shouldn't be any surprise. You have 4 teams going on by this week. Those include the Patriots, Giants, Panthers, and 49ers. 2 of those teams play tonight. So, is that right? Yeah. 2 of those teams play tonight. 2 played last night. So, you're going to be out without your CMC. You're not going to have your Dowdle/Hubbard. No Jackson Dart. No Drake May. Outside of that, I mean, we'll see what we can cobble together. But if you're in a pickle, we are here for you. So,
Yeah. Plus maybe Herbert out,
yeah.
with a broken hand. So
Yeah. Might have Trey Lance. That makes you real excited against the Eagles, I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Hey, he can run the ball.
Yeah. All right. Well, in any case, quarterbacks, I'm going to the well because I don't know if I trust it 100%, but the matchup is great. He actually has a bunch of really good matchups coming up. It's Tua Tagovailoa is 21.2% roster right now, and the rest of his season just looks so impressive for the quarterback position. He just really hasn't been taking advantage of it. So this is a matchup where I think for the next 3 weeks, he doesn't face a team that is better than 22 against a position. So this week he gets the Jets, which again we've all seen get beat up too easily. So that's kind of where I'm leaning and who I like the most this week, I think. So that's my pick. Mike, who do you want to talk about?
Yeah, through Trevor Lawrence in here. I think I mentioned him last week as well. Um, it's so weird. Like Jacksonville is offensively, they're actually playing well. I think they're top 12. I think I heard they're like 5 straight games of 30 points or something about like they've had a lot of 30-point games recently and putting up points, but like it doesn't necessarily translate to Trevor Lawrence and his production. So just double checking here. Now that was a lie, but they've been above 25 basically since mid October, putting up 25 points and over 30 multiple times. So um, I'll go ahead and pick up Trevor Lawrence. He's averaging about 18 fantasy points per game over this last month and a half or so, which is climbs over the last 3 weeks. So he hasn't really produced much from it, but he can move a little bit. So that's more for deeper leagues, super flex or if you play in any type of like 14 team league or a league where people just stash quarterbacks or stuff like that, like maybe Tyler Shuck is a name that you could throw out there.
Yeah, I actually like Tyler Shuck. It's been one of the ones that I've been kind of watching because, like you said, it's 2 weeks where I think he's hit double-digit fantasy points, and they continue to throw. You see players coming on. I mean, my shot in the dark this past week was Devon Vele as a potential streaming option, and he just blew up, taking over that Shaheed role. If that ends up being the case, he's definitely a player that you could have a little more confidence in, depending on which matchup they're going into. And this seems like a good enough one to continue, even because no matter what, they'll probably have garbage time. And if he doesn't turn it over, he's set up for a decent day. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Tamara came in and asked, I'm up 23 points. The other team has Dart playing tonight. What do you think my odds are of actually winning? It's a vampire league, so she'll lose a top player if she loses.
She's up
23
23. Good
against Dart.
start.
Let's go.
I give yourself. I think you're favored to win that. I mean, obviously you could lose that, but 4 point per passing touchdown. Jackson Dart's averaging 18, just over 18 points per game. But actually, that's not right because they're counting some of his like games where he came in and just like took a rush. He doesn't run as much, and that's where he's been getting a majority, like you said, of his fantasy points. So I'd probably bump it up to maybe 70% chance you win that, and maybe that's even a little bit low. 23 points is not easy to get. It's doable, but it's not easy. So plus Patriots defense is pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Well, in any case, we'll get out of quarterbacks and move into running backs. Again, going to bring the name up because he continues to be a starter. He scored. Chris Rodriguez, not quite what you want, but he is a starting running back. He is getting a majority of the carries for the Commanders. He's 25.9% rostered. And as starters go, he seems to be one of the better ones. And then with Kyron getting an injury, Blake Corum becomes interesting at 17% rostered. You saw what he could do with the workload. If that continues, I mean, he's going to be a must start. He's already been kind of splitting work with Kyron anyway, and so I think that really gives a benefit to him. But again, opportunity is going to be there. Really like the player. He's not as a finesse player as Kyron Williams is. He's more of a banger, and so you'll see a very different style in comparison. But those are my two. Mike, who do you have?
Yeah, like the Corum call. I mean, we've been talking about your handcuff running backs all year. Kyron Williams did come back, so hopefully he's not too injured, but still worth stashing Corum, especially if you have Kyron. Devin Neal, I'll throw out there. Kamara was out due to a knee and ankle injury. Probably he's gonna probably miss a little bit more time, I would assume. We'll see if that's true, but I assume he's going to miss at least another week or so, and maybe the rest of the year. Who knows? Devin Neal was the clear guy. He played 59 snaps compared to Evan Hall's 13. Early downs went to basically Evan Hall was just to spell Devin Neal. Like Devin Neal had the majority of the early down, all the goal line, all the short yardage, all the third down, all the 2-minute drill, and then Evan Hall came in and spelled him for a drive or two, basically. And so, I kind of like picking up Neal. I like the usage. He didn't, do a whole lot with it this last week, but he caught 3 passes. He had 14 carries. Really hard to find someone who's going to give you 15 plus touches on the waiver wire, and that's what Neal's probably going to give you. They get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Panthers over the next 2 weeks. Those are great matchups, favorable matchups for running back. So I really like the Devin Neal pickup, and he's pretty wide, decently available, just under 45%. So Bam Knight had a good game. He actually looked pretty good running the ball. He's under 40% rostered. This Cardinals team with Jacoby Brissett is going to throw the ball a lot, and they're probably going to be in most games. So Bam Knight looked pretty good running the ball. 11 for 62 on the ground, 3 for 36 and a touchdown through the air. Very, very efficient. Maybe Trey Benson will come back. His practice window is open. So we'll see. Like we could get squeeze one more week out of Bam Knight. This is definitely I need someone in week 14 because I need to win. I need to win my week to make the playoffs type of ad here. So Bam Knight's on that list, and then Keaton Mitchell I'm going to throw out there. I like Keaton Mitchell a lot. Justice Hill is on IR. So Rasheen Ali actually took a lot of Justice Hill's work, like the third down work and the 2-minute stuff. But Mitchell's going to get some carries. He's very, very efficient. He's an explosive player, so he's kind of a home run hitter. And probably if Derrick Henry gets hurt, I would say Mitchell is going to get a majority, probably benefit the most. You're still going to use Rasheen Ali for sure, but Keaton Mitchell could, bump up to double-digit carries pretty easily. And, if he continues what he does, where he averages 6-7 yards a carry, he's going to be pretty good for fantasy.
Yeah, I really like the call on Devin Neal. He's actually one I was really interested in because, again, he gets a pass catching work, and that's kind of what his role had been. This is the first time we've actually seen him do more of the ground game and get the between the tackles work as well. So I was really nervous that was going to being Taysom Hill, but now with seeing a week with Neal, I think that they really enjoyed having him as a full time back. So I'm more interested in that moving forward for sure. But
Yeah.
again, just bringing up names because if you guys haven't figured out, handcuffs are very important. Uh, Justice Hill being out, Keaton Mitchell I really like too as the handcuff instead. And so that's really the name of the game right now. If you are setting up for the playoffs, you need to make sure you have the backup for your players or somebody else's just in case they do go down and you have a starter you can fill in with almost immediately. So that'll wrap up running backs and move into wide receivers. Again, I don't know how it keeps happening. Alec Pierce, 40.6% rostered. Don't know why he is so available. I know he had one bad week again, but he's out there so much. He's running the most routes. He's seeing the most snaps. It's crazy that he's not rostered more on an offense that continues to just dominate. So really like him. And then I'm going to bring up the guy we brought up again last week. I know this week was a down week. John Mechie, 8.5% rostered. It's scary. However, he's running the second most, or playing the second most snaps. Him and Adonai Mitchell are seeing the same amount of targets, and it's just such a good option. They're very different role players, and Adonai is just getting more separation, while Mechie is more of the short area guy, unfortunately. So you're seeing two very different styles of play, and Tyrod's going to have to throw in pretty much no matter what because this team doesn't have a defense that will stop anybody. So they're going to have to continue to put up points. And so moving forward, that's definitely players that you're wanting to look at. And then finally, with Amon-Ra dealing with injury, I know they haven't done anything definitive yet. Isaac Tesla, after that, pretty much took over all of his snaps. He's 2.3% rostered, has a really big catch radius, and is one of the super impressive players showing up on the Lions team. And so if you're looking for a player to potentially replace Amon-Ra St. Brown, Isaac Tesla would be the one I would lean towards. So with me talking about Mechie, I want you to take the other half.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta throw Adonai Mitchell out there as well. I actually heard earlier it was the first 100-yard receiving game for the Jets this year, which surprised me a bit because I thought Garrett Wilson would have had one of those. But with Adonai, like kind of like with Mechie, these guys were high draft picks, second round pick for I believe both of them. Maybe Mechie was a third. I think he was a second though. And so these guys have talent, just didn't really work out with their first teams for various reasons. Adonai's biggest thing is like he drops too many passes. But if he can catch, he's proven he can get open. So I think having him there, especially with Garrett Wilson potentially still out, when Garrett Wilson comes back, it makes it tough for all these guys. But if they're out, I like both Mechie and Adonai Mitchell here, and also you kind of mentioned it. Those are the two guys that are playing. Adonai Mitchell was playing 80% of the offensive snaps this last week, so he's like their clear X receiver on the outside there. So and the fantasy for both these guys, Mitchell and Mechie. Jacksonville, New Orleans, and the Patriots. So that's 2 out of 3 favorable matchups in the fantasy playoffs. So if Garrett Wilson's out for the rest of the season or whatever, or a couple of those weeks in the fantasy playoffs, you got two of 3 weeks are really good matchups for the Jets. So you mentioned him earlier, Devon Bailey, another guy who we saw him flash as a rookie. 7th round pick. He kind of got traded to the Saints, and he kind of had a big blow up game here. And again, you look at his box score. He's playing almost over 85% of the snaps. He's playing a lot. So getting him, and you're always possible to get kind of games like this when a guy's playing that many type of snaps. So Pat Bryant is another guy. A lot of wide receivers here. They kind of all fall into this giant bucket of guys. I think Alec Pierce kind of headlines them all. But all these guys. Pat Bryant. Look at his numbers over the last few weeks. Have been improving. Rookie receiver, that's improving. He played 70% of the snaps, so he played, I think, his season high in snaps, or yeah, I believe it was his season high in snaps this last game. So is he kind of getting worked into the mix a little bit more? I gotta think that Denver's kind of preparing their team for the playoffs a little bit, and they probably want that consistent third option from Sutton and Franklin. Maybe it's Pat Bryant that can stand up or stand outs there. Jaden Higgins, another rookie receiver. Again, go look at his last 4 weeks. Pretty serviceable, above average numbers here. So in deeper leagues, like Jaden Higgins needs to be picked up. Again, another guy that's just he's playing a lot. Go out and check if Jaden Higgins is out there. He's scoring touchdowns. He is giving you 4 or 5 catches each week. Chimere DK, especially if you get return yardage stuff. I really like DK. Luther Burden, just a bunch of rookies. There's a lot of options there. But yeah, Luther Burden is my last one that I'll mention. Again, just talking about him, he's been getting worked in a little bit more as the season progresses, and I think he's a pretty talented player.
Yeah, I'm less so convinced on Pat Bryant because, again, I don't trust Broncos wide receivers. They can't really seem to get any consistency out of any of them, and so that just makes me too nervous. However, I do like the Higgins pick, and I really like the Burden. Both of those have been playing a lot of snaps. They've kind of stepped into their own roles finally, and I'm super impressed with how both of them are playing this year. DK has been going down, but all these are, if you're looking for a big swing, like there's a handful of players out here that you can get big swings from if you're looking for a flex and a home run ball. This is definitely something that I'm curious to see how that works out, but really am liking some of these snap percentages and routes run and everything else for these players, for these rookies, as we kind of continue to harp on. Is that a rookie usually takes longer to get into the groove and before he really becomes a part of the offense. And so shouldn't be any surprise, but move out of wide receivers into tight ends. And again, Juwan Johnson. I don't care. He isn't killing you every week. He's giving you consistent numbers, 43.2% rostered. We talked about Tyler Shuck. Juwan Johnson is part of that reason that offense moves. It's nothing super special. He's doing it all really without scoring, which is even more impressive. It's just consistent targets and usage in PPR that you're looking for. And then I'll move into the other guy. Because of the fact that Parker Washington sustained an injury, Brenton Strange saw an uptick. It's 28.8% rostered. I really think that Washington dealing with an injury gives Strange a bigger boost. He's coming back healthy-ish and seems to be playing well. And this offense, again, needs to continue to move the ball. And so Brenton Strange is a big part of that. However, I do see a name on here from you that I like. So go ahead and talk about him.
Yeah, I'm actually going to switch the order here. I'm going to start with Harold Fannin Jr. He's definitely more rostered. I'm surprised he's actually not more rostered. I was a little bit, not shocked, but I was a little bit surprised about that just because I know he had a little bit of a cult following there. So, he's being productive with, in as much as he can be, I think. 90% snap share for Harold Fannin over the last 2 weeks, 90.2 and 92.1. So he is out there all the time. And that means he's probably just going to fall into, 3-4 catches, 30 to 50 yards. And he can always do a little bit more like he did this week where he caught a touchdown. So Harold Fannin, I like a lot. And, I'm fine picking him up and starting him most weeks. And then, we'll throw Isaiah Likely out there as well. He's kind of, he was injured to begin the year. He's obviously been a pretty big disappointment this year. Hasn't done much, but finally saw kind of a big game from him. He's always going to float around that 50%, 60% snap share, but he's the type of player that he's going to get targets when he's out there. And this Ravens offense they need to get going. They need to do something, and is it, likely that can kind of step up? So, which one were you looking at?
Well, so one of the things I always bring up every year, it seems like whenever you have a younger quarterback come in, it's the tight ends that get the boost. So Harold Fannin, I just love as an option. Continues to be that guy. Shadir looks for him. Definitely a safety blanket. And now Dylan Sampson is dealing with an injury. So, again, that should include or increase his potential targets because Judkins really doesn't have that ability. I know they activated Ford, but we'll see how that ends up breaking down. But I really like the option for Harold Fannin moving forward, too. So,
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of good options at tight end. It feels like there has been kind of all year. So, yeah, definitely good options there.
yep. And it continues to happen. So we'll move into defenses. And the one streamer that I like, again, I talked about how much I like their matchups moving forward. It's the Miami Dolphins versus the Jets. 12.9% rostered. I had them this past week as one of my favorite options as well. They just continue to do well. They're able to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which occasionally will force turnover or an interception, which is something you're looking for. If they can sack the quarterback or cause an interception, I'm all for it. And too widely available against the Jets, who continue to struggle. Even though he is throwing a lot, it's not producing nearly as much as you would expect. So, you have anybody you want to bring up, Mike?
Yeah, it's not the greatest week. I was kind of looking through earlier and just like, I don't know how I feel about a lot of these players and stuff. I mean, I will say Chiefs are under the 50%. I still think they have a pretty good defense. I know they gave up a good amount of points at the Cowboys. Cowboys are one of the best offenses in the NFL. So now they're playing the Texans. I think that could be a kind of a slugfest a little bit. Two defenses going at each other there. So you could get a solid game from the Chiefs. But man, I don't love a lot of the streamers like for next week. I don't know. 49ers, I know they're on the bye, right? So you can't use them for next week. But the week after, the first week of the playoffs, and by the way, the 49ers are right now, they are 41% rostered. And they're going to get dropped even more. So when they come back after their bye week, they get the Titans. So I'm looking at that and saying, oh, that's the first week of the playoffs. That could be kind of a defense that potentially wins you a week. Puts up 20 points against a team like the Titans. I don't think they're necessarily a great defense, but you're more playing the matchup there. So kind of looking ahead there for if you're going to make the playoffs, maybe stash the 49ers and see what happens in week 15.
Yeah, and in the off chance that the Browns become available in your league, pick them up. I know that somebody's probably going to drop them because they got extremely frustrated this past week with how poorly they played. But even then, this is still a really strong defense. I know I'm pretty sure they just lost one of their defensive tackles, but continues to show up and be solid. And I know it's going to be tough, but you'd still really enjoy this defense if it's available. But yeah, I also really agree with the Chiefs. I wish I could say the Cowboys because I really like how they're moving. And if Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, that's another potential option. They've really showed up these past couple weeks with the addition of the Jets guy. Oh my gosh, now I can't think of it.
For who?
For
Oh, Quinn Williams.
yeah, Quentin. Thank you. I was like, I can't think of this.
Yes. Yeah. I was actually meant to ask you, like, what did you think about? Sorry to interrupt. But what did you think about? They're playing the Lions. No, like you said, no Amon Ra Thursday night. Like,
Short week,
interesting. I don't
man.
know.
It's very tempting.
Yeah. Well, it's a normal week for both of them, right? So because they played Thursday.
Yeah.
So they get the back-to-back Thursdays. But I don't know. It's scary. Lions indoors are a little bit scary to play a defense against. But I don't know. They are a lot better. So maybe they're a team like the Cowboys. If we look ahead a little bit here, they get the Vikings, Chargers, Commanders. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mind that stretch in the playoffs there. I mean, Vikings are are a dumpster fire right now. Chargers offensively aren't going to blow you out, I don't think, especially if Herbert misses time or, I don't, playing the Raiders is one thing. Cowboys are different. And then the Commanders, maybe Jaden Daniels is back by then, maybe not. So I kind of like that fantasy playoff stretch for them. Maybe pick them up and maybe avoid starting them this week, but see what they do. And then you can, see what happens there.
Yeah. Obviously a good option. So However, before we get out of here, sure adversity, golly, came in. Do I start Ramondre Stevenson or Hunter Henry today?
Ramondre Stevenson or Hunter Henry. How many points do you need?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. If it's any
think
kind of
it's
PPR, I'm
Henry,
probably going to
though.
go Henry. I know it's not great because he's still splitting so much with Hooper, but he did kind of seem to have more of that job. It's just how much you're willing to risk at this point. So,
One of the hardest things in fantasy, I mean, there's a lot of hard things about fantasy, but is like, so Ramondre's been back from injury 1 week. And so they had a stud rookie who was awesome when Ramondre is out. Ramondre came back last week. He played in 30% of the snaps. Is that just how they want to use Ramondre now? Or is it, well, he missed, almost a month. We're easing him back in, right? Like, you never know what they're thinking. And so I'd probably go Hunter Henry either way.
so
Just because there's a good chance like Ramondre gives you, 7 carries and that's it.
he says he's up to facing Diggs.
Up to facing Diggs. Yeah, I think I go Hunter Henry. I think Henry's probably. I mean, yeah, it's so hard with Ramondre. I think there's a chance Ramondre gives you like 7 carries and maybe a catch or two. Whereas like, yeah, I'll go for Hunter Henry. I think Diggs is going to put up a decent amount of points, so you're probably going to need some points. I don't see a huge game from Ramondre, so I think I'm going to go Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I concur. It's definitely going to be Henry for us. Good luck, because you definitely sounds like you're going to be in some trouble. But we're going to get out of here. Hope everybody has a good week 14. I will be back on Wednesday with Neil to go over anything you guys want to talk about. We're going to go over some pretty hot topics and kind of see where we're leaning. Outside of that, have a good game tonight. Hopefully it's everything you need. If you have a waiver wire pick, hopefully we've got it right and they continue to go scorched earth for you and just tear up the rest of the season. But remember, as always, to keep up the nonsense, and we will see you next week.